Hi, I'm Rock, and welcome to another installment of the Rockin Read Aloud Tour. Today on the tour, I'm going to be getting serious. I'm reading from When All the World Sleeps, which is one of the earliest collaborations between Lisa Henry and me. It's not a very feel-good book, but we had a lot of fun writing it. It was actually our favorite project to work on together, so I'm very excited to be sharing it today. If you don't know the story, it takes place in a very small town called Logan, South Carolina. And before the start of the story, a young man named Daniel Whitlock was the victim of a brutal gay bashing and then in turn went to the home of the man who bashed him and burned it down with the guy inside it. So at the murder trial, Daniel's lawyers pleaded a sleepwalking defense, claiming Daniel had a very severe sleepwalking disorder where he sleepwalks at night and then doesn't remember the next day what he's done. So everyone in Logan thinks this is pretty much bullshit, including Officer Joe Bellman, or Bell. But once Bell actually gets a chance to interact with Daniel at the start of the book, he starts to question some of his assumptions about him. There's a little bit of a connection there, and he starts to wonder if maybe there's some truth to the sleepwalking story. And he learns that Daniel has, since the murder, become almost a complete recluse. He stays in a cabin in the woods, he almost never goes into town, and he sleeps chained to the bed each night. But the problem is that Daniel can sometimes let himself out of the cuffs that he uses to chain himself to the bed. And so he and Belle kind of strike up a deal where Belle, on his nights off, will come to Daniel's cabin and just sit in the car outside in the driveway and make sure Daniel doesn't get out, doesn't leave the cabin. So that's the scene I'm going to be reading today, is Belle's first stakeout at Daniel's property. Um, Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you so much, as always, to all the blogs that are hosting me. And if you want more information on the tour or if you want to see past tour videos, you can visit www.jarockauthor.com. So here is When All the World Sleeps. Bell had been on plenty of stakeouts before, but never one quite like this. For starters, he was off duty, alone, and missed having someone to talk to. And usually the person he was watching didn't know he was being watched, and usually Bell wasn't imagining that person chained to a bed. Bell tried to think about something besides Whitlock chained to the bed. He glanced at the empty passenger seat next to him and remembered Whitlock there, the feel of Whitlock's lips against his, the other man's soft whimpers, the heat of his breath. Fuck, he was gonna have to sit here all night with a heart on if he kept this up. He had to think about something besides Whitlock. He started texting Dav, not telling her where he was, but they got into some discussion about a show they both liked, and that killed some time. Near midnight, he took a walk to stretch his legs and take a piss. Something rustled in the undergrowth nearby. Bell shone his flashlight all around, but didn't see anything. He sat on the hood of his car and stargazed for a while. He'd always liked that. Peaceful. Got back in the car when he found himself staring too much at the cabin, thinking about the cuffs around Whitlock's wrists. Listened to some talkback radio until it pissed him off, went searching for music instead. Around 1 a.m., Bell's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his breath caught. It was like a horror movie. A text from Whitlock. Well, why's that so weird? He's not dead. He's sleeping, or supposed to be. Bell looked at the text. It read, JEKSFEIEJKDD. Bell glanced at the dark cabin. Was it possible Whitlock was texting in his sleep? Another text minutes later, SFN, JFLEM, EWM, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Bell was troubled by the exclamation points. Were they intentional? Was Whitlock trying to ask for help? Bellman looked at the cabin again. Whitlock wasn't screaming or anything. Bell didn't want to go to the guy's house without being asked. A third text read, SSSELSPSSHEL, exclamation point. Another exclamation point, and hell, which could have been an attempt at either help or Bell. Except Whitlock didn't call him Bell. Did he? Bell didn't know how Whitlock thought of him. In the next few minutes, he received a barrage of texts, none of them particularly coherent. Bell finally got out of the car, walked quietly to the porch, opened the screen, and rapped on the door. No answer. He turned the knob and pushed it open. Whitlock was lying facing the door, his eyes glinting in the darkness. Bell flipped on the lamp. Whitlock blinked. The expression on his face wasn't one Bell could read. Whitlock clutched his phone in one fist. "Did you need me?" Bell demanded. Whitlock didn't answer. "Whitlock, you awake?" "Nothing." "You've been texting me. I thought you needed something, or I wouldn't have come in." Bell stood awkwardly by the door. "I need you," Whitlock said breathily. He jerked on the cuffs, arched his back, and raised his hips. He dropped the phone onto the mattress and grinned. "I'm glad you came in. Was getting lonely." Jesus. Bell couldn't look at Whitlock sprawled on the bed like that, arms flexed, hips rolling, erection clear through his flannel pants. He looked away. "Now what I tell you, we're not doing any of that." Whitlock gave a quiet chuckle. "We can. You want to, don't you? You kissed me, officer." Just like that first night. Cocky, unashamed, hot as fuck. Irritating as fuck. Whitlock! Irritating, because Bell couldn't have him. Whitlock laughed. "Come on, Officer Bellman. Lay down the law." He jerked on the cuffs again, and the chain jingled. "Let me out, and I'll do something good for you." "Daniel!" Whitlock stilled, lowered his hips onto the bed, stared wide-eyed at the ceiling. What the fuck? "Daniel." Bell tried again, calmer. Didn't know why he was using Whitlock's first name, but hell, maybe he'd get through to him quicker. No response. "You awake now?" "Nothing." "You hear me?" "I need to know if you hear me." Whitlock, Daniel, slowly raised a cuffed hand as high as it would go and pointed at something. "Look there." Bell looked. Daniel appeared to be pointing to a soot stain by the busted window. "Look there," Daniel repeated. "I see it," Bell said, not sure if he was irritated or freaked out or both. How the hell did he know if Daniel was asleep or awake? He glanced at Daniel again and saw that his eyes were wet, that his jaw and throat were tight but quivering with the effort of staying quiet. Shit. Bell definitely hadn't signed on for this. What the hell was Whitlock crying about? He should have stayed in the car. Daniel had managed sleeping chained to his bed alone for years, hadn't he? Exactly why you shouldn't leave. Bell glanced back at the stained wall. That's seen better days, hadn't it? Daniel gave a soft sob. "Yeah. I guess we all have." Bell was afraid to look at him. To his surprise, Daniel laughed. He looked, and Daniel was still crying, but he was trying to smile as well. "I guess we have." Bell lowered himself into the chair. "You awake?" "I don't know." "You don't know, huh?" Bell kept the words soft, resigned. He put his elbows on his knees and clasped his hands. Daniel's tears had stopped, and now he was smiling. Not the wicked, seductive grin of a few minutes ago, but an artless, beautiful smile. His smile stretched into a yawn, and Bell could see into his mouth where two of Daniel's back left molars were missing. "You got a couple of teeth gone," Bell said. A flash of anger he couldn't place, draining away to sadness. "Yeah." Daniel's smile waned, but he still looked content, peaceful. Bell couldn't help smiling a little too. Ain't nobody in Logan knows what kind of freak show's going on here tonight. "You need anything?" Bell asked, "before I head back to the car?" "You can stay here." Nothing suggestive about this invitation. It was earnest. More comfortable, maybe. "You want me to stay?" Daniel looked slightly fearful. "Please." Bell studied him. "You awake now, Whitlock?" Daniel tensed. "Yes." "You're going to go back to sleep, though." Bell shifted in the chair so he could reach the lamp. "I'm going to turn off the light, and I'll be right here, and you'll go to sleep. Okay?" "Yes, sir." Whoa. What the fuck? Bell had been called sir plenty. and his cock had never reacted like this. He sat there like he'd been punched, willing the sensation, the heat, to subside. 2 words, so soft, and Daniel's eyes wide and a little nervous, and those chains that shouldn't fucking be there because no one should have to sleep chained like a dog, but that looked so good on him. And Belle, maybe there was something Belle could do. Maybe that something was just being here with someone who'd been alone too long. Maybe it was just switching off the lamp and saying, "Good night, Daniel," and hearing the answering inhale in the darkness.